but I want to take this opportunity to welcome you. The Senate has been waiting to engage with you, and I want to now invite Senator Dr. Boni Khalwale to come and give his question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary disclose the number and identities of all Kenyans currently working in the Gulf states? B, how many Kenyans have lost their lives while working in the Gulf states from the year 2022 to date? And C, Madam Chair, what support does the government provide to families of Kenyans who die while overseas? And could the Cabinet Secretary explain any actions being taken by the government to facilitate the repatriation of the body of MS Mildred Busolo Lisanza, deceased, from Saudi Arabia to Malinya village in Kakamega County? I thank you.
Prime Cabinet Secretary, it's your chance to answer to those questions.
Madam Speaker, I was saying that there are thousands of Kenyans in the Gulf countries, and I will tabulate the data that we have. We have in total over 400,000 Kenyans in the Gulf states, and I'll tabulate as follows. In Saudi Arabia, the records we have are there are 310,266 Kenyans. In Qatar, 66,025. United Arab Emirates, 23,000. Bahrain, 8,000. Oman, 5,392. Kuwait, 3,515. Iran, 200. Iraq, 150. The total record we have as of to date is 416,548. Madam Speaker, I wish to further state as follows. Kenyans in these territories exhibit high movement between various Gulf states. The numbers given therefore constitute periodic statistics derived from our missions in these countries, further corroborated through official sources of the host governments. It should be noted that not all Kenyans register with our missions abroad, despite being sensitized on the importance of such registrations. Hence, sometimes it is difficult to have very precise data. So, Madam Speaker, under the circumstances, it's not easy at this stage to be able to say that we can avail all the identities of these 416,000 individuals in the Gulf states. The second question was to do with how many Kenyans have lost their lives working in the Gulf states from 2002 to date. The records we have show that the total number of Kenyans who have lost their lives in the Gulf region is 316. The breakdown is as follows. Saudi Arabia, 166. Qatar, 58. United Arab Emirates, 51. Iraq, 25. Bahrain, 10. Kuwait, 6. Oman, nil. Iran, nil. The total, 316. Aspect C of the question, let me see if I've gone carefully. The issue is, what support does the government provide to families of Kenyans who die overseas? And could I provide details on Mildred. Madam Speaker, upon receiving a report on the death of a Kenyan abroad, the first step that our missions do is to notify the family of the demise of their loved one. The ministry does this by liaising with the employer, the foreign recruitment agent, if they're foreign-based, and the local recruitment agent based in Kenya to establish information about the deceased and next of kin. 2, the ministry also has a robust counseling department that offers psychological support to family members, including managing of the information, assessment, counseling, preparation for travel for a family representative or family member, and coordination with family members to receive the body of the deceased. The ministry also establishes the migration status of the deceased where possible, coordinates with the employer, the government agencies, diaspora groupings, other stakeholders and the family, while ensuring that the body of the deceased is well preserved ahead of repatriation back home. The ministry also follows up on the benefits and entitlements of the deceased person from their place of work in accordance with the applicable laws of the host country. 5th, the mission facilitates obtaining of a post-mortem report to establish the cause of death and provides necessary documentation to facilitate the repatriation of the body back home. This includes issuing a no objection certification for the body to be transported to Kenya. The ministry also facilitates administrative procedures, including police investigations, if any, and a settlement of hospital and medical bills as appropriate. The ministry also coordinates with the deceased family on the arrival at the arrival port and date and facilitate to receiving of the body. Where the deceased is not employed or out of immigration status, the embassy liaises with the ministry to inform the family to enable them to make necessary arrangements, including sending a representative or a family member to facilitate repatriation of the body back home. Madam Speaker, there are limited resources available in terms of government support and facilitation for actual payment of bills of the deceased, as well as repatriation of mortal remains. However, in extreme cases and on a case-by-case basis, the ministry has invoked such support for extremely needy cases. For instance, in the case of Albania, there was medical evacuation, there was the death of an athlete in Mexico, and a student in Finland, where the ministry had to bear the costs. In many other cases, the ministry works and mobilizes the diaspora through associations to raise the necessary funds to facilitate repatriation. Madam Speaker, the final aspect that I wish to respond to is with regard to Madam Mildred Bosolo Lisenza. We got information. She was reported to have died on 5th February 2024 inside Saudi Arabia. The mission established that at the time of the death, the deceased was employed on a valid contract. The mission, also through the recruitment agencies, established the contacts of the deceased's family and obtained a post-mortem report to establish cause of death and preparation of the body for repatriation home. The repatriation of the body took long since the post-mortem report indicated that the cause of death was suicide, and investigations were ongoing which affirmed the same. For this reason, the employer, who otherwise is supposed to assist with the cost of repatriation, declined to take responsibility for repatriating the body, citing that the death was not a natural occurrence. The ministry, through the embassy, escalated the matter to the labor authorities of Saudi Arabia to compel the employer to resolve the matter as required by the employment contract. I therefore wish to report that the employer eventually, after the pressure, took up the matter, and the body of Ms. Mildred Busolo Licenza was repatriated to Kenya on Thursday, 9th May 2024. I submit.
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary.